Welcome back, Clan fans. So episode 12 was another big one, and looks like Jamie and Lord John's friendship is hanging in the balance, while William is alienating everybody around him after he learned the truth about Jamie being his father. So without further ado, let us get into the details of this episode. So at the beginning of the episode, Jamie is using Lord John as a hostage / way of getting him out of town, and he tells Lord John the reason why he went to his house was because he wanted to assure Claire that he had survived after he learned that the Euterpe had sunk. So now he's in a pickle because apparently when he was being checked going into the city, he did not want to show the officers a certain item that he had on him. And we later learn what this item is, but we'll get to that later. But yes, so he manages to sneak out of town. They go to the woods, and Jamie mentions Claire, like thanking Lord John for taking care of her. And Lord John kind of comes back to the reality of like, oh, right, Claire, my wife, the woman I slept with. This was the best part, honestly, was just Lord John, this face that he makes right before he says what he says. And if you paid attention, you'll know what I'm talking about. The moment where he's just like this, like, like, don't say it, but I have to. But yeah, David Barry did a great job nailing that moment. So yeah, he tells Jamie that he has had carnal knowledge of his wife, which is a very interesting way of saying this. I personally don't know the historical context of that phrase, but that is the name of the episode, Carnal Knowledge. It's just, it's a very interesting way of putting it. Like a very posh, polite way of putting it, I guess. But yeah, that's Lord John for you. So yeah, Jamie's like, and why is that? So he tries to explain to Jamie, like, the reason why he and Claire had this moment was because they were both devastated about him being lost at sea, and at one point he mentions that he was imagining him while he was having sex with Claire, and this prompts Jamie to punch him. And boy, it goes downhill from there. Literally, John falls down a hill after Jamie hits him. But yes, so the fight continues on. Lord John is looking worse for wear by the time a group of revolutionaries come upon them, and they want to know what the business is, why Jamie is beating this man. And because Lord John is a British, I don't know what his title is exactly, what he was before he retired, but because he has a past being in the British Army, they want to take him in, and they almost threaten to take Jamie as well if he's not going to cooperate handing Lord John over. So Jamie, in his anger, allows them to go ahead and take him. So now the friendship has been broken. Alright, so I need to fix something. I originally filmed a segment of the video where I was talking about Lord John's predicament, and I have to come on and say I was a little confused with this part because I'm not very good at recognizing faces of some characters. I thought Lord John met up with Captain Richardson originally when he's taken to the camp, but it turns out he's taken to Colonel Smith. So I personally do not recall if we've seen him on the show. I get the feeling we haven't, but Lord John does know him from England, so I think he's just a character where they met off screen. He's trying to convince, like, Smith, like, you want me alive, you don't want me dead, because my cooperation is more valuable than my death. So even though it seems like Colonel Smith is going to ponder this, he, in turn, does not really believe that Lord John is in fact more valuable alive. And now I think I have fixed an error that I made. Yeah, you won't see that part because I took that out, but I just wanted to fix that for myself because, again, I get so confused with some of the side characters, so it's a lot of plot, to be fair. But yes, Colonel Smith, not Richardson. Also, I want to correct another thing. I'm sorry. It is not Captain Morgan. I know why I said that, but it's not Captain Morgan. Colonel Morgan. And yes, Jamie becomes a general, but he's more of a brigadier general, which I don't quite know what that title entails. It's a very specific ranking, and I don't know, again, my rankings in terms of titles, but it is an honor that is bestowed to Jamie from General Washington. Okay, I think I fixed everything. Sorry about that. And Lord John actually happens to run into Denzel. And he does try to treat him, and he is concerned about his eye because it got badly beaten. So he tries to make an assessment with this that Lord John can't be moved from this camp. He can't go any higher with the elevation. So the captain's like, well, then we're just going to have to bring everybody over here. So, unfortunately, Denzel has learned that Lord John is to be hung, and he tells him, like, hey, there's this way that I can help you escape. But yes, Lord John actually does attempt at the end of the episode, and unfortunately, it is discovered that he has, in fact, escaped. So now the revolutionaries are after him, and it is just going to go downhill from there, possibly. You know, what's interesting is that this episode really reminded me of when Roger was sold into the Mohawk. Like, very strong vibes from that. Obviously different circumstances, but just a very similar situation when Roger had the attempt to escape, and he didn't get away because he decided he couldn't. Lord John's situation's probably going to be different, but yeah, that was kind of intense. I wasn't expecting the story to go in that direction because as much as I spoiled the book for myself, I did not spoil that part of it. But yes, Lord John is in a very bad place right now, which, wow, didn't see that coming in this episode, I will say. And to explain a little further, the reason why they want Lord John is because his cousin, who is a general, I believe, he is in trouble because he caused a lot of revolutionaries to lose their lives, basically in cold blood. It was the Powley massacre, and I looked that up. It doesn't seem to be a real massacre, so I think it was just made up for the show, unless Google doesn't know about it. That's honestly possible, but yes, so that is why Lord John is of interest to them. Now, with William's story, he actually goes to talk to Claire about everything, and he asks her all these questions like, what are the circumstances of how I was born? And Claire does explain to him, like, there was no rape involved, and Jamie was honorable, and he told her about it, and just William's having a big issue with, like, accepting this fact, which, as we saw in the last episode, when he learned it instantly, he was so angry at Jamie and Lord John. So now he's kind of left to deal with it by himself, now that Jamie and Lord John are out of the house. So, yeah, the more that William learns, instead of it, like, easing him, like, into this reality, he instead gets very angry, and he storms out of the room, and he throws things and breaks things, and it does not end there. At one point, well, let's see, what should we start with? At one point, he goes to a brothel, and a lady catches his attention, and she brings him to her room, and he is not in the mood, let's just say, but she's trying to do everything to get him to relax and to enjoy the moment, but instead he gets very angry at one point, and he basically, like, slaps the drink out of her hand, and he yells at her, and she yells at him, and it just, very ugly moment. So that did not go well. On top of that, the next day he is he's trying to help people evacuate Philadelphia because I think it's about to be taken under siege by the revolutionaries. And while he is on the road helping people, guess who comes up? His would have been beau, Rachel. It's like, not the time. But yes, she and Ian like approach him and they say hi, like it's to be friendly, because they left on friendly circumstances. But when William learns that they are engaged, he gets very upset and he actually, like, all of a sudden just punches Ian, and it just goes bonkers from there. And he basically calls Ian his cousin, which confirms that he knows about Jamie being his father. And he basically blames Ian for not telling him also, which, it's a frustrating thing. It's like, even though they had this knowledge, like Ian, Claire, it wasn't really their place to tell him this. So he's just projecting his anger onto them, because those are the only people that he can project his anger onto at the moment. Because, like I said, Lord John and Jamie are out of the picture at the moment. But yeah, so he and Ian get into a very big fight, and finally some soldiers come out and take Ian away, and he tells them to arrest Ian for assaulting an officer. And Rachel gets very mad because she's like, no, you hit him first. And she's trying to ask him to explain himself, and it gets angry to the point where he's like, yeah, I know you're not going to hurt me because you don't believe in violence as a Quaker. And then all of a sudden she just gives him a nice big slap on the face, which, instead of bringing him back to reality, prompts him to kiss her. I was like, well, well, people keep saying he has that Fraser fire, and I think that is true. But yes, Rachel is definitely at the point where she is not going to forgive him anytime soon. And she goes to follow Ian as he's being taken away by the soldiers. And well, we're going to jump over to Jamie for a quick second, because this will tie into the story. So Jamie has gone to visit Captain Morgan. I'm still letting that sink in. Is it General Morgan? Captain? I think it went from Captain to General. I can only remember so many titles. But yes, Morgan actually takes Jamie to see General Washington, who we did meet back in season 4. And I was hoping they were going to bring that up, and they do. And Jamie gives him what he was trying to hide from the British soldiers. And apparently it is a correspondence of sorts from France. And I think it has something to do with their help in supporting the war. And Jamie actually did this on his own accord, so this actually gets him promoted to general. So now he is General Fraser, which it should be good news, but it was hard to enjoy the moment, because it should have been a great moment for Jamie, but the way he acts in this episode kind of threw me off, let's just say. But I'll talk about that more at the end. On the way back to Philadelphia, Jamie actually catches sight of Ian being taken away, and in a moment, like, they both see each other, and Ian realizes, my uncle's alive. And you kind of don't think about it when he was fighting with William earlier and defending the Fraser name, that he, of course, hadn't learned that Jamie was still alive. So that was just a nice little moment between them. And then Jamie catches up with Rachel, and she explains what's happened. So Jamie approaches William and takes him away by force and tells him, you are going to drop the charges, you are going to tell them to let Ian go, and you are going to leave them alone. So after forceful words, let's just say, William does do as he is told. He still obviously hates Jamie, but baby steps. But yes, William just was having a moment. Later that night, William does return to that brothel, and he wants to take who apparently is named Arabella, who was the girl from the previous night. he wants to take her to the room, but another soldier wants her. So William manages to outbid him, and he tries, once they're alone, he tries to apologize to her, like he's not usually that way, and he was just having a bad night. And she tells him like she got in trouble for all of that, and he says that he'll pay for everything. So basically he tries to mend what was broken there. And he is very hesitant about sleeping with her because he feels like all he has left is his honor. So he tries to convince her, like, no, just get a good night's rest. That's what the both of us are going to do. But she manages to convince him step by step, like, get in the bed. No, second thought, let me touch you. And it just goes on from there. I won't get into the details. But yeah, he kind of shares this moment with her, and it was kind of a moment that he needed. He didn't want to admit it to himself, but like she's able to kind of give him comfort that he's been craving this whole time, because this is somebody who doesn't know who he is, and it's kind of nice for him to know, to have somebody who doesn't recognize him as Fraser. He's just this man. He has no name here. So I think that was just that moment that he really needed for himself. So I don't know how he's going to be from now on. He's probably still going to be very mad at everybody, but hopefully he's going to start to heal and start to accept that this is who I am. I can still be William Ransom, because he literally is just William Ransom. He never took the Fraser name. Just his Papist name, but anyway, I'm sure William will come to terms with it by the end of the season. Alright, now let's talk about Claire and Jamie. So they spend most of the episode apart, and Claire's basically just having moments of bliss. Like, even when she's attending to, like, everything that William broke, she's just like, no, I guess we're just gonna have to fix the mirror, darn. She's having so much trouble being angry because she's so relieved that Jamie's still alive. But unfortunately that bliss comes to an end when Jamie returns back to the house, and Claire is basically told to explain what went down between her and Lord John. And now I am not even going to attempt to explain this conversation because it goes in so many directions. I'm not even kidding. Basically, to sum it up, Claire tries to explain to Jamie that she and Lord John needed each other in that moment, and they were very drunk, so their judgment wasn't the best, but it was still like something that they needed. And she was kind of more perplexed by the fact that he was willing to grieve more than she was. So she wanted to be there for him. And it kind of gave her this feeling of like, in a way, it's kind of nice that I can be there for somebody. Hopefully I'm explaining this right. Like I said, this conversation just went so many places. But Jamie is, of course, a jealous man, and he just keeps, like, asking the same question. It's like, sir, she's trying to explain to you that she thought you were dead. She was grieving. She literally admitted to you that she tried to convince herself to kill herself, which he doesn't really acknowledge, by the way, which seemed very interesting to me. He just has a face for a second, but then he continues to question her. Sorry, I'm going to rant on this one. Because I know it's in Jamie's character to be jealous, and I know he has had these moments where he's been with other women, but he's having trouble imagining it being Claire in this situation, because it was a different situation in his mind. But I just don't like how he approached the situation. It was too repetitive, in my opinion. And it's like, I know you're not happy. The fact that Lord John told you this first, And I don't even think he knows that they're married, is what's interesting. Unless I missed something, I don't think they told him that they're married. They just mentioned that they were together for a night. That's going to be a very interesting conversation in the next episode, if that's the case. But yes, Jamie and Claire do make up, as usual, in their fashion. But I can't explain it. I usually love it when Jamie and Claire have it out with each other and then make up, but this time just felt off. It's just how I felt, but it felt off. It felt too much like Jamie had no right to be as angry as he was. Because Claire was in a very bad situation where there was no way for her to know that he was alive. I don't know if there was a way that he could have sent a letter, like some way to correspond that he was alive, because he knew that the Euterpe had sunk. Obviously, it had sunk like so much time later since he didn't board it, but I don't know, it was just a really bad situation. But Jamie's not fully understanding or grasping the pain that she was feeling. That's what I got out of the scene. Now, I love them together. Like, they do a great job. Chemistry's there 100%. But I don't know, it didn't sit well with me. Let's just leave it at that. Now, in this episode, we also did not see Roger and Bree, so we will continue their story in the next episode. But in a way, it was kind of interesting to focus just on the past, because there was a lot that needed to be addressed. But I'm very curious to see Brianna questioning Rob Cameron, because he deserves it. Looks like he's in the priest hole too, so. But hopefully they will find the whereabouts of Jemmy. I'm sorry. I've been talking about Jamie this whole time. Hopefully they will find their son, and eventually Bree will have to travel back in time, because Roger's not going to know what on earth is going on. But yeah, we'll hopefully get it all resolved by the end of the season. Yeah, that was episode 12. Like I said, it was a lot, but at this point, it's all going to be a lot. There's a lot to resolve, so hopefully Lord John will manage to escape his fate, which I'm sure he will. They'll find a way. And we did meet a new character, Arabella, also known as Jane. That's her real name. I don't know how much we're going to see of her going forward, but I heard there's another female character that's supposed to be a love interest to William, I think. I'm not positive on that, but possibly. Unless the show changes course. That's also possible. But yeah, we're going to see what happens with William and him accepting who he is. And Jamie and Claire moving forward and continuing to fight in the war. And I'm sorry, I still don't like the conversation. I got into it when Claire was defending herself. Like, I'm proud of her for doing that. But I just don't like how it resolved. And I don't like how Jamie was just, like, grilling her constantly. And it's like, sir. And then all of a sudden he's like, you could sleep with the whole British Army and I wouldn't care who you slept with. I still love you. And it's like, it wasn't feeling that way. But yeah, again, personal opinion. That was how I felt watching it. Maybe everybody else felt differently. But yeah, I don't know. Again, left a bad taste in my mouth, but I still love their relationship. This moment just didn't feel like the best for them. It's really a shame because Lord John really didn't do anything wrong, other than the way he explained it, but he was protecting Claire. Like, I actually forgot about the fact that he married her to protect her from being hanged for being a spy. And for some reason that wasn't talked about. I don't know why. But hopefully they'll have more of those conversations in the next episode or two, because I feel like they're conversations they really need to have, because these are some important details as to why Claire and Lord John are married. It's like Jamie was only focused on the fact that they had a night together, which can be understandable, just the way he handled it. No. We will see what happens in episode 13, and let me know what you all thought of this episode. What did you think of Lord John's predicament? What do you think will happen with William? And what did you think of the fight between Jamie and Claire? I'm curious to hear opinions on that one. But yeah, let me know in the comments, and I will see you for episode 13. Bye, everyone.